going on, Blossoms back, and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives and another episode of RQ10 to RQ100. Now, we've covered half of the countries from the Big Six so far. We've done RQ10 to 100 for the best cars for the United States, the United Kingdom, and Italy. Well, today we're going to be going to Deutschland because I'll be covering the best German car for every RQ, non-press car included. And this is a very special video. I actually consulted the German Meister of German cars, okay, in Top Drives. That is indeed Oliver. You may know him from my streams. He's an amazing friend, an amazing player, an amazing patron, and he helped me work out and curate this list. Now, obviously, Oliver, he's German. He loves German cars, and he is collecting every German car in the game. He has a lot of these cars, and he's a stat meister as well. So we went through a lot of times together, and this is in our connected opinion, in our conjoined opinion, Oliver and I, these are the best German cars for every RQ. So let's get straight into it. I'm gonna do the all car format, and then after we work out all the way to the end, I will go into filter and only show you the wish listed cars if you want to see what all of the cars look like in order. So first of all, in RQ10, it's the Volkswagen Type 2. Now I want to just say one more time, prize cars are not included in this series, okay? These are cars that you can unpack, and I want to tell you that sometimes, you know, even though a car might be the best RQ12, for example, it doesn't mean that it's a fantastic car. It just means that it is the best car within that RQ. Okay, this RQ12 might lose to RQ11s or RQ10s. I'm just using it as an example. Nothing's going to lose to the Volkswagen Type 2s. But what I'm trying to say is that the point of the series is to point out the best car in that RQ. But anyway, Volkswagen Type 2, I think this one's pretty obvious because this one doesn't even have a 0 to 60, and this one handles just a little bit better. Now the next one is the Volkswagen Transporter. Now this is where Oliver's intelligence and his experience comes into play, because if I was doing this alone and you asked me to choose what the best 11 RQ German car was, just look at what I got to work with. I got like 2 Porsches, one from the late 40s and one from the mid 50s, and then we have Volkswagen Beetles and a Bmw Isetta. Now I know a lot of people are going to be mad that the Isetta isn't chosen to be the best RQ11. It might be the best in your hearts, but in our brains and in our calculations and in our discussion, the Volkswagen Transporter beats all the other 11 RQ cars on 80% of the track sets. This includes the drag, the hairpin, the karting, the car park dry, and both city streets. Now moving on to RQ12, the best car is again a Volkswagen Transporter, but this time from 2004. This one is pretty self-explanatory, I would say, because there are really only 3 cars in this category. RQ13 goes to the Porsche 356B. That gets a buy because it's the only one there. RQ14 goes to the 2008 Volkswagen Shiroko. Now once again, I needed Oliver's experience for this. Now it took me a while to curate this list for German RQ10 to 100s because I know that a lot of the low end of German cars are a bunch of Volkswagens, and I don't own a lot of them, so I don't know their times. So once again, shout out to Oliver. He is the German Meister when it comes to collecting German cars in Top Drives. So the Volkswagen Shiroko turned out to be the best. It wins the city streets, dry and the wet, the fast circuit, the twisty circuit. It wins Monaco tracks and the test bowl. Basically, the Volkswagen Shiroko wins the majority of the track sets, and that's why it takes the crown for RQ14 in German cars. Now, moving on to RQ15, it's going to go to the BMW 1800. Now, I'm going to be referring to a lot of my notes for the lower rarities because I don't have a lot of these cars, but don't worry, Oliver tested them. Okay, so BMW 1800, it wins the twisty road, it wins the twisty circuit, it wins the dry and the wet versions of both of them, and also it wins the drags, and that's why it is the RQ15 go-to. The Smart 4 will obviously win the slalom and the G4s, considering that it handles better and it's much lighter, but the BMW 1800 would win the majority of the track sets when it comes to RQ15s alone. It's a 1v1, it's the Smart versus the BMW. RQ16 is self-explanatory. It's the BMW 507. You want to drag spec this. It's not only an amazing German common for the drags, it's an amazing common in general for the drags. And it's the same thing for the Mercedes-Benz 600. This thing is absolutely ridiculous. It's a car that you want to use and trust on a test bowl, a half mile, a 1 mile. It is a very, very strong car, and it needs no introduction. Now, moving on to RQ18, it's also going to go to the Opel GT. Pretty fundamental stuff over here. Amazing handling, lightweight car, and and it has decent MRA for a common. And then last but not least, RQ19, wrapping up the commons for the Germans, would be the BMW 2800 CS. It's just the best in every dry track compared to all the RQ19s available. Obviously the other two are standard tires, and when these two compete against each other, the 525 and the Mercedes-Benz, it's about a 50-50. The Mercedes will win the fast stuff in the drags, and the BMW will win the twisty stuff. Now let's move on to uncommons. Now the best RQ20 in our opinion is going to be the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. This thing is absolutely ridiculous, a testable god, amazing car for the 1 mile as well, great MRA on this bad boy. And then for RQ21 is the Volkswagen Shiroko. It is the best dry RQ21, and it is very competitive outside of RQ21. So one thing that gives a an RQ bonus points is if the car is able to perform against other cars above its RQ. If it loses to cars below its RQ, that's just a shame. That's shameful at that point. But we do take brownie points for cars that are able to compete with other cars higher in RQ to it. And the Volkswagen Shirako is one of them. It remains competitive within RQ22 and 23. It has a low 0 to 60, and well, the handling isn't strong. I wouldn't say it's strong, but it's a good hybrid and a great bargain for 21 RQ. And I have it max as well, so there you go. I don't like Volkswagen, but that's a really good one. RQ22 was a bit of a surprise to me. It was the Volkswagen Golf Gti. I thought that it was going to be the Volkswagen Touran, but once again, Oliver, being the god that he is, has proven otherwise with his spreadsheets. The Volkswagen Golf Gti is the best car for RQ22 for the best twisty and the best city street small car. It also is really good on the drags within RQ22 alone. Moving on to RQ23 now is going to be the Opel Kadett. Now this one is very self-explanatory, amazing handling, lightweight, medium ground clearance, and a respectable 0 to 60. RQ24 is going to go to the Volkswagen Touran. Very simple, it gets a buy, it's the only one there. And 25 goes to the Volkswagen Polo GT340. G40, my bad. The G40 is the best drive for RQ25, as simple as that. The other two are shared between, well, the other three are shared between the standard tires. RQ26 is going to go to the BMW 116D. Now, if one car deserved the sleeper tag, it would have to go to the BMW, okay? Because the handling, yeah, it doesn't look, you know, amazing. It's not jaw-dropping. The 0 to 60, once again, it's not the best thing in the world, but it is a bit of a sleeper. It is a very strong car, and I would give it, and well, not I, but we, Oliver and I, would definitely give it the award for the best RQ26. You get a lot of value out of this car. Moving on to RQ27 is going to be the Volkswagen Passat. It wins 80% of the track sets when they are non-rolling, so it is very, very strong. And RQ28 is going to go to the Volkswagen Amg Gti. This one is also very self-explanatory. Amazing handling, 85 handling when you 969 it, and it is a medium ground clearance car as well, not to mention that it is very light. And last but not least, another sleeper in RQ29, the best German RQ29 goes to the BMW 728i. Now I know the Corrado is a very popular car among the player base, as well as the Jetta, because it handles so much better. But the BMW 728i is once again another sleeper. It wins both city streets in the wet, and it only loses on the twisty circuit and the car park to the Jetta, which means that the BMW 728i in a wet twisty setting beats the Jetta everywhere besides twisty circuit and car park. How crazy is that? So yeah, this is, you know, your go-to German city streets wet car. Bit of a sleeper for sure. Now, moving on to RQ30, we're going to start off with the Opel Insignia Country Tourer. Standard tires, medium ground clearance, and amazing handling to boot. It's a very, very strong car. Also, it's an estate, if I do believe so correctly. Let me check real quick. Yeah, there you go. Estate and a 5-seater. Now, RQ31. Here's an interesting one. A bit of a hot take, and I know Oliver and I were talking about this as well. None of the Opel Mantas actually make the cut for this. The award actually goes to the BMW 635 CSI. Now, here's the thing about the BMW that really impressed me. The BMW 635 CSI is the best drag German car. Now, if you drag spec it, okay, it is the best drag German car until RQ37. Okay, the Mantas are really good. Don't get me wrong. The Mantas are really good twisty cars, but they're only the really best twisty cars until RQ34 when they go up against the Opel GT. The BMW 635 CSI, if you drag spec this is your best drag German car up to RQ37. That is a lot of, that's just a huge bargain. That is a lot of positive, that's a lot of value that you can get from an RQ31 for it to hold such an accolade. So because of that, the BMW 635i takes the trophy for the best RQ31 German car in Oliver and my opinion. Moving on to RQ32, it's going to go to the Opel Monza GSE. It is the best twisty, wet German car all the way up to RQ35. So once again, a very, very strong, underrated car, and I don't even have that. Now RQ33, I do believe, is pretty self-explanatory, is the BMW Z4. It was funny, I was talking to Oliver about this, and RQ33 German cars, it's a bit of a wasteland. It's really just the BMW Z4, and everything else is pretty atrocious. And then moving on to RQ34 is the Opel GT Concept. Once again, very lightweight car with amazing handling. It needs zero introduction. Moving on to RQ35 is the Mercedes-Benz 280 GE. Once again, not a lot of great options to choose from over here, so we went for the car with the most versatility, four-wheel drive, and off-road tires, along with high ground clearance. Not a lot of cars in the rare category can provide such amenities, if that makes sense, to the table. So the Mercedes-Benz 280 is unique in that sense. RQ36 goes to the Bmw I3s. This is your go-to German wet city streets car. Whether it's small, whether it's medium, this is a car that you can rely on time and time again. It is a blossom choice for a reason. Very, very strong car. Definitely the best 36 by a quarter mile. And then for the best 37, it's going to go to the Volkswagen Jetta. In this case, it's quite, obvious. It's handling. Now, obviously, the BMW 220D is going to win the faster track sets, but the Jetta is going to win more of the twistier track sets, and therefore, it wins the majority of the track sets, and we'll give it to the Volkswagen Jetta. Now, moving on to RQ38, we have the Porsche 928. Now, I didn't know about this until I talked to Oliver about the discussion for German cars. Obviously, I'm an American specialist, so this kind of flew over my head. But if you 996 the Porsche 928, you are getting the best rare dragster for German cars, for German rares. It has about 80-ish MRA, and it is actually a very strong car when you think about it. The 0 to 60 is actually weak, but when it comes to German cars alone, the Porsche 928 is a very strong car to have in your garage. So I don't have it, and look at that super quirky interior that the 928 provides, but I'm definitely looking for one now after the discussion that we had with Oliver. And then moving on to RQ39, we are going to cap things off with the BMW 525iX. It's the best German rare wet twisty car. End of discussion. Now let's move on to super rare RQ40. We're starting with the Audi Quattro. Now this is just the most versatile car at the table. Four-wheel drive with decent handling. You max it out and we'll hit about 82 handling. It's a relatively lightweight car, which is also medium in ground clearance, so we gave it to that, mainly because of that versatility. Moving to 41 is going to be the Volkswagen Lupo Gti. This is like, it beats the ELR on slalom wet, which is a massive accolade. It's a very strong car, medium ground clearance, standard tires, and 86 handling once you max it out 969. We do not talk about the Atlas. Nobody, I know I'm the only one recording this video, and I just had to bring the Atlas up, but we do not talk about that. RQ42 goes to the Porsche 924 Turbo. This is a car that I need to get because this is the best standard tire German super rare up to RQ47. It even ties against the Lupo on a slalom. Now, obviously, I don't have both the cars max, but Oliver has the spreadsheets, and Oliver did say that these two cars tie on the slalom, which was a huge surprise to me. I thought that the Lupo would at least win that, so the fact that this ties makes the 924 Turbo a very strong car. I think the only reason why it's not as high as RQ as the 911 2.7 is because it has a low ground clearance, whereas the 911 2.7 has medium ground clearance, because they have very similar on-paper statistics in terms of 0 to 60 and handling. Now, moving on to RQ43, the best one is going to go to the Mini Cooper. It's the best city streets medium all the way up to RQ46, so it's a competitive car above its RQ range, which is a good thing to see. RQ44 is going to go to the Porsche 968. Once again, RQ44 is a bit of a wasteland when it comes to German cars, and we kind of just give it to the, the best handling one of the bunch. Now the next one is going to be RQ45, Porsche 968 Club Sport, and RQ46 is going to go to the Volkswagen New Beetle RSI. Now notes on the Volkswagen, it is actually the best fast circuit and wet hairpin German super rare up until RQ48. I do not like this car. Android loves it. I hate this car. But what can you do? It brings value to the table, and therefore it gets the reward. Now moving on to RQ47, we're going to give it to the BMW M1. Now after the BMW M1 got its buff, it is now the best German dragster, and I don't have it. I need to get it. It's a really beautiful car. There should be nothing that's stopping me on this. It even has Munich on the car plate, and I'm a Bayern Munich fan for life, Mia San Mia, so I need to get the BMW M1 for sure. It is the best German dragster, full stop. 48 is going to go to the Volkswagen Phaeton. It's a very strong car, four-wheel drive saloon, great handling, standard tires as well, medium ground clearance. The only thing setting it back is the weight. It is a very heavy car. And then RQ49 needs no introduction. It's going to be the Opel GT. Now we move on to ultra rares. We're going to start with the Porsche Cayman and RQ50. This is, in my opinion, the best German ultra rare for RQ50. RQ51 is going to go to the Opel OPC. This is your best twisty German car, all the way up to RQ58 slash RQ57. RQ52 is going to go to the Mini Cooper. Yeah, this one. I mean, look, 52, not a lot of options to choose here. Yeah, the Bmw 645i is the best dragster for RQ52 and below, but it doesn't really hit above its belt. We decided to give it to the Cooper Works just because of its niche. It's medium ground clearance, it's a hatchback, and when it comes to German cars, yeah, okay, it handles well for a medium ground clearance car, because when you think about it, other medium ground clearance German cars, like the Mercedes-Benz E500, has 74 handling, which is nothing compared to 80. But when you put this car in a general sense, it will be roasted by the French cars because they handle so much better. But it does slightly get the RQ52 reward, because the BMW H2R is kind of those hybrids that just loses at absolutely everything. RQ53 is going to go to the BMW 640D. It's the best dragster RQ53 and below. I know it's the same reasoning as saying that the 645i is the best dragster 52 and below, and we could give it to that, but guys, we're basically just choosing one as the shiny of two turds at this point. Moving on to RQ54, we're going to give it to the Mercedes-Benz G500. Once again, it's unique, it's versatile, it's an all-surface tire dragster, and not any of these cars, RQ54 and below, can say the same thing. And it's also the best RQ54 dragster all the way up to RQ56 when we get the other G-Class. Moving on now to RQ55 is next up on the list. Is going to go to the BMW 520D. Finally, one that is definitely universal in terms of ingredients, right? Four-wheel drive, standard tires, great handling, medium ground clearance, traction control, ABS. 520D is an absolutely fantastic car. RQ56, we are going to give it to the Maybach 62 Landaulet. This thing is an absolute beast, okay? When it comes to the drag standard tire meta, the Landaulet is the best ultra, and then the other Maybach, the Epic one, is the best Epic, and then the Cadillac 16 takes the legendary ranks. Very, very simple. 57, Opel Corsa, needs no introduction. It's a fantastic car to use in the dry city streets as well, because it handles well and has a low 0 to 60, but of course, where you really want to put it is in the off-road sector, especially in clubs when it's front-wheel drive. Amazing handling on this thing. It's a very, 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 very strong car. Now, moving on to RQ58 now, we're going to pay a visit to the Mercedes Amg G63. This thing's an absolute beast, but also a shout out to the M Coupe, which is a very strong, twisty German car for RQ58 and below, but in the end, we gave it to the AMG. I mean, you have to, right? It is the best ultra SUV for the quarter mile and the half mile, in general, and obviously in a German sense as well. Now, moving on to RQ59 is going to go to the BMW Z4 M Coupe. Amazing handling out of this car, and also it is, relatively lightweight. Honestly, it's borderline like medium weight at this point, but amazing handling and a low 0 to 60. RQ60 goes to the Roof 3400S. You're getting the best handling out of this, a high top speed, also from 1999. That doesn't mean anything in this series, but it means a lot to me because that's my birth year. It's also a lightweight car, and it has the convertible niche, and I guess you can say it has a 90s niche. Moving on now to RQ61, we are going to give it to the BMW X1. Now, the BMW X1 is the best German all-surface tire twisty car because it has the best handling, and it is the lightest among its competition. Even SUVs that are higher in RQ to it. RQ72, we're going to give it to the Porsche 718 Cayman. Now, the Porsche 718 Cayman, what makes it interesting is that it's the best RQ62 for the twisty circuit, standard and rolling. That's it. But it was enough accolades to give it the best because the 718 Boxster is a strong car, but it wasn't the best in anything. It was always second place in everything, but at least the 718 came on. We can say it's the best in the twisty circuit, super rare and roll, super rare, best twisty circuit standing and rolling for RQ62 and below. 63 and 64 is very fundamental. The Volkswagen Golf Gti Tcr is the best. Now, I know that a lot of people might be thinking, well, Blossom, why aren't you adding the 924 Carrera? The problem is you can't think about this car and not think about the Lancia 037. At least when it comes to the Volkswagen TCR, it is the best in its niche. It's the best front-wheel drive ultra-rare twisty car. You can't say that this is the best rear-wheel drive off-road tire. It's the second best perhaps, but when the 037 exists, it's tough to say. It's tough to say. This one you can say is the best off-road tire German car, but this one you can also say is the best front-wheel drive German car, and is the best front-wheel drive twisty car in general for front-wheel drive. This doesn't have that general accolade, you know what I mean? Moving on to 64 is going to be the Roof BTR. Now, 64 is a pretty tough one because if the car, you have this, the M6 convertible, which is the best ultra-rare in general for the fast circuit. Then you have the best for the 1 mile, obviously non-price cars included, and then you have the best for the rolling fast circuit, and then you have the best for, I believe, the 0 to 100 to 0, but in the end we gave it to the Roof BTR. You just get so much value out of this, and when it comes to just German cars alone, this is the car that you want to choose for any drag, any test bowl, anything fast. You can even use it for a fast circuit, and it will only lose to the M6 convertible and perhaps the Porsche 968 Turbo S. Now, moving on to RQ65, this one was tough because everything in here is absolute hot garbage, but eventually I gave it to the BMW M3. It's just, you know, the best hybrid one out of here. It combines the lower 0 to 60 with the best handling. I know it has one less handling than the M Coupe, but look at the 0 to 60 difference. 0.5. Night and day. RQ66 is the BMW M3 CSL. For as long as this car is medium, it will remain one of the best RQ66s in the game because it's medium and it has 97 handling. This is like the epic version of the Renault Megane 275 trophy. Moving on to RQ67, the Maybach 67. We talked about its younger brother, now we talk about its older brother over here, the 57S. This thing is only second to the Cadillac 16 in its niche. Moving on to RQ68, once again, the best all-rounder is the Porsche Boxster S. 4.20 to 60 with 85 handling. RQ69 is a bit of a controversial pick. I'm going to give it to the Mercedes-Amg C63. You get amazing MRA out of this. It's about 89 MRA, a very low 0 to 60. It is also in a state. I know the handling isn't very good, but it is still over 90 when you max it out. I know some people would probably want to go with the NASCAR because once again, it's kind of like the BMW H2R. It's a hybrid that kind of just loses everywhere. At least that the BMW AMG brings that estate niche. It brings that low 0 to 60 combined with good MRA. The only thing that it's lacking here is a higher top speed. And man, remember when this thing used to be RQ72 and medium? Those were the days, man. Those were the days. Okay, moving on to RQ70 is going to be the BMW M3 CRT. About 83 MRA in this bad boy. I owned it for a really short time, for like a week, and then I fused it away during the Koenigsegg Chimera finals. But it is once again your best all-rounder, and it brings great MRA as well. It's basically just a slightly worse version of the campaign Camaro. Now moving on to RQ71, I'm going to give it to the Roof RGT because it has like 105 MRA, something like that, and a very high top speed as well as competent handling for its RQ. Moving on to RQ72 is basically the discount Cadillac CT6. I almost said CTS. It's the discount Cadillac CT6. Amazing handling. It's a salute. It's basically the German CT6, right? Moving on to RQ73, it's going to be the Volkswagen Arteon. It is weaker than the Volkswagen CT that we literally just talked about. But when it comes to RQ73 alone, I would say that this is the car with the highest pedigree. It's a better version of the Phaeton, although the Phaeton has better MRA, but this is a car that you want to put in the twisty anyway, and it has better handling. And also, unfortunately, a lot of these twisty cars, these Boxers, the 911, the BTR2, they're better alternatives to use, and in the end, I decided to go with the four-wheel drive standard tire medium ground clearance car. Moving on to RQ74 is the Mercedes AMG Sls Gt 100 MRA, a high top speed and a low 0 to 60. It's a bit of a Hellcat killer, also from the 2000s, and with that convertible niche, it is a very, very strong car to have in your garage. Now, moving on to RQ75 is going to go to the Roof 3800S. Now, we talked about the BMW M3 CRT a bit earlier, how that was like the German campaign Camaro with a decent MRA, and it was a bit of an all-rounder. Now, take that BMW and just make it better in every way, and you get the Roof 3800S. Still a hybrid with amazing handling, a low 0 to 64 its RQ, and still decent MRA, around 82 to 83 as well, with a high top speed. Once again, it's also convertible, and it's a relatively lightweight car. It's just a lot of versatility, a lot of bang for your buck. I think the Roof 3800S is definitely the best RQ75, and there are some pretty strong competitions around it. 76 is going to go to the M3 CS. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, bless him! The 911 Carrera RSR is super light. It has amazing handling. How is it the M3? The M3 is just more relevant. Okay, it has a saloon niche. It has amazing handling as well. It's a 5-seater. It's just so much better, and it's it's performance tire, so you can use it in the wet if you really wanted to. The M3 CS is the best 76 in my opinion, and you cannot change my mind on that. The RSR is fantastic, but the M3 CS is better, it's more versatile, and I get a lot more use out of it. I maxed 2 of them, okay? I had 3 911 Carrera RSRs at one point, but I only have 1 max. But the M3 CS, yeah, I had to max 2 of them for sure. 77 is gonna go to the BMW X3 M40i. This is like your best epic German, sorry, not your best epic, it's your second best epic German all-surface tire, because your best epic German all-surface tire goes to the RQ78 winner, which is the Audi Sq5. I mean, come on, man, 90 handling for an epic SUV with four-wheel drive and all-surface tires, and it's absolutely ridiculous. These are legendary numbers. They're not even legendaries in top drives that are SUV that can even hit 90 handling. So yeah, the Sq5, and also not to mention it's a killer for the diesel niche as well. So really strong car. And 79, I'm actually gonna give it to the BMW 750D X-Drive. It has good MRA. It's a fantastic standard tire car to use in drags, but it also has that versatility in the twisty stuff because it has four-wheel drive, and the handling, although it's a lot worse than the Volkswagens, it's still competent enough where it will only lose by 50, but it wouldn't. It's not like a hybrid where it loses by 50 everywhere. It is like the go-to German dragster for the four-wheel drive wet, fast circuit, etc, and also because there are not a lot of great 49s, 79s out there, like the Audi, the RS5, the RS3 with like 2 MRA. In the end, I decided to go with the 750D. This might be a little controversial, but I've owned this. I've even looked down on it when I first got it, but it gets me so much value, and it has a higher win percentage than I ever thought it would have. RQ80 goes to the Opel Cadet Rally E4S. This thing is, no introduction. 4-drive off-road tires, amazing handling. RQ81 goes to the Porsche Macan GTS. It's an SUV. It's a better SQ5. You can max it out because it handles better. Also, it is lighter than the Audi SQ5 by like almost over 100 kgs. 82, I'm gonna give it to the Mercedes AMG Sls Gt. Here's a pretty interesting one because the Roof SCR has amazing MRA, but so does the Sls Gt. The Roof SCR has better handling, but the AMG is not far behind with 88. And at the end of the day, I'd rather have I love handling, trust me, I love handling, but I'd rather have the car with one handling less with a 0.3 second difference in its 0 to 60, okay? And although the Roof SCR has better MRA, it's about 6. Like, this is like 105 MRA, and then this is like 99. It's very close. I would still go with the AMG SLS. 83 goes to the 911R. It's your best hybrid, amazing handling, decent 0 to 60, high top speed and a decent MRA, and also because the competition is kind of trash. And then moving on to RQ84, we're gonna give it to the Macan Turbo. It's a buy, it's the only one there. RQ95 is a 911 GT3. Once again, it's just a better version of the 911R. And then moving moving on to RQ86 is going to go to Enqui needs an RS6. Estate niche, 93 MRA. Decent handling. It used to have better handling, but it's still decent. And a good top speed with a relatively okay 0 to 60. I would say the 0 to 60 is actually quite weak, but the MRA makes up for it for sure. So that is the best 86, beating out all these legendaries over here. The best 87 in my opinion goes to the Porsche 911 GT2 RS, 100 MRA, high top speed, and great handling in this bad boy. It's a wild ride for sure. 88 is going to go to the Porsche 911 GT3. It's your best all-round car for the 88 RQ, a very low 0 to 60 combined with amazing handling. The MRA definitely isn't the best. If you want a great dragster for 88, then you want to rely on the Roof RT35. It's a fantastic dragster, but when you want a car for the twisties, the fast circuit, the hybrid, the hairpins, the Monacos, you go 911 GT3 RS. 89 goes to the Macan Turbo Performance Pack, by far the best German all-surface tire non-price car, one of the best in the game in a general sense as well. I think only behind the Stelvio and the Urus if you want to count price cars. And then moving on to RQ90 is going to be the Porsche 917, 110 MRA, of course, super high top speed, amazing handling, and incredibly light. Moving on to 91, we have the Gumpert Apollo S. It's kind of like just a better version of the 911 GT3, right? Low 0 to 60, great handling, a higher top speed, and better MRA. 92 goes to the Porsche Panamera Turbo. Very simple. It's the best medium ground clearance non-price car in the game, and therefore it gets the clout. Moving on to RQ93 goes to the 911 GT2 RS. This is, taking a vengeance because obviously the 911 GT3 RS lost to the Gumpert, and then the GT2 got mad and he was like, nah, I want Porsche to be that title again. So the Porsche 911 GT2 RS is just a better version of the Gumpert Apollo. Better handling, lower 0 to 60, good MRA, not as strong as the Gumpert, but really good MRA, and I'd rather take the lower 0 to 60 as well. Moving on to RQ94 is going to be the Porsche 911 Turbo S. Now the R8 has much better MRA, but it's not fantastic. It's just that the 911 Turbo S has horrible MRA. Seriously, for a legendary, there's something wrong. I think it has like low 70, high 60 is really bad, really suspicious, all things considered. That being said though, I'd rather have 2.6 over 2.8, 90 handling over 88. It's not like this has 100 MRA. I think it's like 84 or something like that. 95 RT12, it goes by because it's the only 95 one, and 96 goes to the Porsche 962C. So last but not least, I'm gonna filter it by just wishlisted. So we have 87 cars, and here you go from start to finish. I'll just do a quick little swipe, and you can pause the video whenever you want. Hopefully this is slow enough, so we'll go. While I take a breather, because I've been talking for about the last half an hour, and I really need some water. I really need some water. I feel like SpongeBob in that one episode when he was in Sandy's dome and like there was no water. But anyway, that's going to be it. Once again, shout out to Oliver for helping me create this list. The next time you see this series, it will be Japan, and obviously I will have help from the sensei of Japanese cars and top drives, Corn. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly, got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly, got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville,
Pontiac,
hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville,
Atlantic,
blonde hair, don't care, look like Leslie Brooks. Pin up girls everywhere with the drop dead look. Swing it side to side as we slow dance to the night. When I'll hold your perfect hand and take you out just for a ride. Wish our milkshakes had